You are Locked On Cowboys Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Dallas, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, here we go. Welcome into the Cowboys Postcast, your team every day and your team every game. That is the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. My name is Jeff Biggs. Thank you for watching Locked On Sports Dallas, your destination after every single game. You can also find us on the Locked On Cowboys podcast feed. And coming up on today's episode, we'll talk about how the Cowboys hurts themselves, even though Jalen Hurts didn't play, but how they hurt themselves with turnovers. How did the Cowboys defense do against Saquon Barkley? I think that was the big matchup going into this game. We'll get into those numbers, and we'll just talk about how there was really no brotherly love today for the Cowboys on the road in Philadelphia as the Eagles clinch the NFC East Division title. But with that said, hope you had a great Christmas. Thank you for being with us here on this Sunday. And I'm going to start with you, Coach Glenn Stretch Smith. Give me your initial thoughts. I know for me, just right out of the gate, remember we worked not too long after the first meeting between the Eagles and the Cowboys when they played in Dallas, and that was an ugly loss. That was the first game for Cooper Rush after Dak was injured, and it was ugly. It was 34-6. Cowboys have been playing really well. You and I have talked about a lot of good things. We've seen this team improve. They had won 4 out of 5, but if you would have asked me, there's no way that this rematch would be uglier than that first one. I would have taken that bet anytime. No way that that game would be worse, the rematch in Philly, because the Cowboys have played so well on the road this season, but that was not the case today. They did not follow my script.
Well, and that's exactly why you don't bet on football. They don't air condition the desert for a reason, and the reason is they don't lose. So you're smart from that standpoint. Today's football game to me was about the turnovers, the pick six, where Cooper Rush gets confused by coverage. It looks like they're showing man coverage, and in fact, they have a spy in there that just looks up the slant. He throws it to the slant. It's one of Vic Fangio, who is the defensive coordinator of the Eagles. It's one of his kind of favorite coverages. He likes to show one thing and kind of then back out and play something else, and that's exactly what he did. Cooper Rush throws a pick six. He comes back and leads them on a nice drive to tie the game up, and really you thought, in the first half right there, in my mind, it should have been a 7-7 game. And Ferguson fumbles the football. I mean, you get another pick by Rush trying to throw a deep ball late in the half. And to me, that really was the football game. Now, we can sit here and say, well, Andrew Booth got himself in a position where they were trying to match him up versus Devontae Smith, which was really no matchup. They were trying to travel bland, with Brown, and the Eagles exploited what was a fourth string corner for the Cowboys that was in the game at the time. And so you combine turning the football over 3 times in the first half and trying to match at best, backup corner against one of the league's most dynamic young receivers, and you got so far behind in the first half that then you came out in the second half, and you can say what you want to about Saquon Barkley, about what he did or didn't do. He didn't do much at all in the first half, and I think that the turnovers got to where it just got to be almost too much for the Cowboys to be able to overcome, and then basically you're trying to get out of there at that point. I mean, you're looking to go, you're looking to go get the damn Jimmy John sub and head to the bus and get out of there. So I'm not going to sit here and place a bunch of emphasis on a game where the Cowboys are playing, a backup quarterback. Do I like Cooper Rush? I think he's a good backup quarterback. But for all those who think that, well, he should be competing for the starting job, All you have to do is look at these type of games to know that. I mean, that's the reason the Raiders didn't sign him when they had him out there when he was a free agent a year ago. And this is not a situation where I want to come on here and start ripping Cooper Rush or Andrew Booth or any of these other backup players. I think it's unfair to them. I think it's unfair to the entire process. But Cooper Rush is at best a functional guy that can get you through a game or a couple of games. Now he's played 7 games, on his way to playing his 8th game, and we know what he is. I mean, that's just let's not make something bigger than what it really is here, which is at the end of the day, this should have been a 10-7, 14-7 halftime game, and that's with the Cowboys throwing a pick 6. I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I think Kenny Pickett is going to be the next Johnny Unitas. I mean, that's not the case. I mean, he made some plays against some down the line players that the Cowboys have, and good for him, and good for the Eagles. And it's the first time they beat the Cowboys twice in the season since 2011. Doesn't happen very often, but you're talking to a guy who's not an Eagles fan and who I'm not a big fan of Nick Sirianni. I'm not a big fan of the whole process over there. So this is one of those I probably could have set out, Jeff, because I have too many biases against Philadelphia. But, we're here to talk about the Cowboys. And at the end of the day, am I going to get on here again and just rip Andrew Booth or Cooper Rush? They're both backup guys, and let's not make it any different than that.
Okay, well, I want to be clear, Coach. This is the place for your biases. We welcome your biases here. So feel free. This is the place to unload and get them out there, get them out of your system, cleanse yourself, be pure, be free, and move on to next week. But as a coach, it's the old adage of when you're playing a division opponent that's in first place on the road, the one thing that you can't do is beat yourself. And I don't care how good you are, you turn the ball over 3 times in the first half, that's going to set anybody back. And to your point, I mean, really, you take those away, you take those 3 plays away, and that the first drive was a promising drive before the pick 6. I thought the Cowboys did a good job coming back after the pick 6, and they scored and were able to tie it. I thought Rush made some good throws. They were running the ball a little bit. Kevontae Turpin was fired up. But then just after that, as the turnovers progressed, by the time they got to halftime, like you said, by the time they got the ball in the third quarter, I mean, the game was over. It was done.
Yeah, and the crazy thing was, I think in the first quarter and several minutes into the second quarter, Philadelphia had run 6 offensive snaps, and yet the game was tied 7-7. And so this is a difficult place for a Cowboys fan. It's a difficult place for this organization. It's difficult to say, boy, we shouldn't have won the last 2. We could have tanked and got a better pick, and I'm never going to buy into all that. And at the same time, do you want the head coach back? You have to think if you're watching it all that Mike Zimmer has done a phenomenal job defensively. I think they have definitely gotten to where they are much better than they were early in the year, even with backup players like Awarie and we've seen Leah Fowl step up and play big. We've seen Lawson play big. Golston. We've seen some guys that I don't think we expected to get a lot out of this year who have contributed defensively. You combine that with what Mike Zimmer has done. Defensively, you combine that with what Mike Zimmer has done from a coordination standpoint, and I think it's, it is something that you have to take notice to, knowing that he's got them playing hard. They're flying around. They had a couple of chances today to make a couple of picks. So I think as a Cowboys fan, you look and you think, it's good that these guys are getting the opportunity to play in these games. I'm talking about Leofau and Booth and Awarie and these down the line guys who I think it only helps them and it only helps you from an evaluation standpoint, get yourself in position to look towards 2025 and what you're going to do. Now back to the head coach. It remains to be seen what Jerry is going to do with Mike McCarthy in this scenario, because he is in the last year of his contract, and I don't know, there's been some talk that maybe some other NFL teams would like to talk with him about their opening. And so I think it's going to put Jerry in a tough situation. And like I've always said, and you've heard me say this, I mean, if you talk about moving on from a head coach, you better have a good option as to what you're going to do to replace him. So I think there's a lot of things that are going to be decided here, or, that Jerry's going to have to think about in the next 8 to 10 days coming into, a Washington game that will be here in Dallas. And then what are you going to do with a coaching staff that is on the last year of their contracts?
All right, Coach, I'll tell you what, couple of things. Number one, I want to invite everybody. I call them the comment crew. They can comment live via chat, and they can interact with us live right now. So please, if you want to jump in, if you want to share your thoughts on the game, on the season, the coaching staff, next season, the future, please do so in the comments section. Jump in. We'll get to those. I have some thoughts. I want to run them by you about Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff. And I have not one, but two running back questions for you, Coach. When we come back, we'll take our first time out. But again, the Cowboys, tough day today in Philadelphia. Not a lot of love there today. They fall to the Eagles 41-7. This is the Cowboys postcast. That is the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. I'm Jeff Biggs. Back after this. All right. Need to ask you a question. All right. And that is, did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's happened with subscriptions that you don't even realize that you're still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. That's a good chunk of change for sure. So I think one of the best things is the subscription tracker, right? You can cancel services you don't want to use anymore. That you can save a ton. Plus their goals feature, you can actually automatically set aside money for the future so you don't have to stress out about your budget every month. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, welcome back to the Cowboys postcast on a Sunday, week 17. The Cowboys get blown out in Philadelphia by the Eagles. The final score 41-7. That is the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. I am Jeff Biggs. Again, if you want to jump in via the comment section, you can do that. A couple of things, Coach. Number one, to finish your thoughts on Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff. I have to say, kind of midway through the season, wasn't sure about Mike McCarthy. I thought maybe maybe the team was kind of slipping away, and maybe this group was in need of another voice. But I have to say, as this team has had to play now without Dak, we've seen this team improved as much as they can. We've seen the defense really improve in a lot of ways. We've seen him and the coaching staff deal with a lot of all the injury issues all season long. And I feel like in spite of all that, this team has improved. And I'm saying on the record, I think McCarthy and Zimmer and this staff, I think they deserve another season together with this group to see what they can do. Maybe obviously tweak the roster a little bit. Going to have to, I think, still need some upgrade in talent. But I think all that said, I'm okay if McCarthy comes back and they get another shot. Now, to your point, if there's somebody out there or possibly better option that we don't know about, that's a different conversation. But that's where I stand today. I would be okay with that.
Yeah, here's what I know. In having been in the building and been at my time, my 9 years, here's what I do know. I do know that the coaching staff has a say in personnel when it comes to not only the draft, but free agency. All right. And so when you look at the posture of the owner, everybody wants to think that, well, he's the donkey and let's pin the tail on him because he's the donkey. At the end of the day, he's making decisions for his football team according to what he hears.
Right.
And what he heard from this coaching staff was, we don't need to sign Derrick Henry. We think we're pretty good at running back right now.
Ouch.
We don't need to draft X. We think we're pretty good wherever that situation may be. And so when you take the entire process of what it means to be a head coach in the NFL, which it's not just what goes on the Fox broadcast or how we see them manage the game or how we see what they do during the offseason or how they structure practices or what they do during OTAs. Inevitably, that guy also, he's got to be and have a feeling for what to do from a personnel standpoint. I'm going to tell you this, that somebody in that building felt that it was a good idea to pay Dak Prescott $60 million. Jerry didn't do that on his own. He's telling you that. I know that, and I know this for a fact. Now, you can look at that and you can say, well, it's the cost of doing business. Jerry drug his feet. You should have signed him 2 years ago. What about him? What about Amari Cooper? Who thought it was a good idea to let Amari Cooper leave the building? So this is a receiver who was making $20 million this year. You think he would have been a pretty good number two opposite of CeeDee Lamb? You decided to let him leave the building. Somebody told Jerry that personnel call was okay. So I'm giving you what I feel like is not a stick figure. I'm trying to paint you a Picasso here. And that is that ultimately that guy is in charge of everything that goes on in the building. Am I here to say I think we need to move on from Mike McCarthy? I'm not. But I do think that you have to look at the entire picture of what was put out there this year to start the season. And that was at the end of last year, you go out with an ugly first-round loss at home to Green Bay. And the expectation is get deep in the playoffs or else. Okay? Or else. All right? Well, during the offseason, Jerry said, hey, I'm all in. He took a beating for saying I'm all in. Okay? He was listening to voices. We don't need to do certain things. We're okay here. We're okay there. Now, you're 7-9. You're not making the playoffs. Your quarterback, who somebody suggested it was good to give him $60 million in a 4-year deal, has been hurt for the third time in his 5 years. He's hurt on the shelf. And you're paying him $60 million. and you're on the hook for 3 more years at $60 million per. There's a lot of things that need to be considered here, and I'm with you. Has the team responded when I didn't think they would respond and have nothing to play for? Absolutely, they have. But you're a professional at the end of the day. You get paid to play football, and you have incentives in your contract, and you have all kinds of things to go out and play for. And so I believe at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that Jerry and Stephen are going to have to take a hard look at to say, what are we going to do with moving this franchise forward in 2025, and how are we going to best be able to get ourselves back in contention to win the NFC East? Because let's be real, Philadelphia's better, Washington's better. Hell, the Giants go out and score 45 today against Indianapolis. What are you going to do to get better? And then how do you repackage that to go energize your fan base and to go get your fan base ready to go buy those seat licenses, go buy those shirts, go buy those hats?
Yep.
You got to get them re-energized. I don't know who that is, and I'm not saying one way or the other about Mike McCarthy. I'm saying that those are all before you can make a decision on whether you're going to sign Mike McCarthy to another. He's not going to want a 1-year deal. He's probably going to want a 3-year deal. And I can tell you right now, Jerry is not – he didn't get to be a multi-zillionaire by throwing his money away. Smart about his money. So I think we got – again, we're going to have a lot to hash out. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and I think that's why they pay you and I a few dollars on Sunday to get on here and talk about it.
That's right. And with that said, I think the Derrick Henry, I think for every Cowboy fan, every time you hear his name, it stings, right? It hurts. It hurts to hear. But let me ask you this, Coach. Today, for example, in this horrible game, 41-7, Rico Dowdle has 23 carries for 104 yards. Give me your honest assessment, if you can, right now. If it's fair, maybe it's not fair to do it with Cooper Rush, a quarterback, and without Dak. But give me your can Rico? Can he be the guy? Can he be a number one guy?
1,000-yard rusher this year, right? He rushed today. He broke that mark.
Yeah,
he's got 1,000 yards for the year. I'll tell you that I think before we have that conversation, let's talk about what's up front. Let's talk about the fact that they allowed Tyron Smith to leave, right? He went to the Jets as a free agent. They went out and drafted Guyton, drafted Beebe. So they started 2 rookies on an offensive line that, let's be honest, Terrence Steele is okay. Zach Martin's been hurt the last month of the season. Smith, the left guard's a good player. Tyler Smith is a good player, the kid out of Tulsa, good player. But at the end of the day, you started the year with 2 rookie offensive linemen, and you went into week 10 of the season or 11 of the season before you lost Zach Martin. So you had to put Brock Hoffman, who is free agent. Okay?
Yeah, he's done good.
I'm sorry?
He's done good. I think he's done good.
Right. So the point I'm making is you have grown a little bit in the offensive line. You've done some good things. I think BB will be a good player. I think Guyton continues to play. I think Adoka, he's just the other swing tackle. You got a little bit out of him. Hoffman, you played TJ Bass in there some. All of those things to me are good things. So now let's get to the situation with the running back. If you have a good functioning offensive line, like I think the Cowboys began to do about a month ago, they began to kind of get it dialed in a little bit. I think you can now move forward and say, hey, we do feel like we have us a good back Enrico Dowdle. And you had to go through the process, the painful process of him fumbling the football some. He fumbled the football today. But you had to allow him that opportunity to do that. Do I think you've identified yourself a good player? I do. Do I think in the last few weeks with Flournoy in there, you've identified yourself a pretty good receiver? Do I think, having to play Spanford, having to play the other tight end, starts with an S. Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Right.
I'll give it to you in a second. At the end of the day, those guys playing more football helps your football team. And so, yes, they've identified them a back with
Schoonmaker. Luke
Schoonmaker. Luke Schoonmaker. I knew it started with an S. I told you. I've taken a few licks to the head, and every once in a while I get a brain fart too. So, yeah, I think you got a good tight end room. Ferguson, Schoonmaker, Spanford. I mean, you've identified that you got yourself in a good position now. So, I know I'm giving you a long answer to a question. Do I think they have a back? I do think they have a back. Do I think they need to get another back in that running back room? I do. I think Zeke he came back to Dallas and he did some good things and, good for him. And now he can retire a Cowboy and, you can kind of move forward there. You still don't have an answer of whether Deuce Vaughn can play or not. I still don't know that. I think you probably got to go into OTAs and training camp, seeing if he can be another guy. And offensively, you got maybe the best receiver in football in CeeDee Lamb, and who knows what you have in a quarterback. You have a functionable quarterback in Dak Prescott. I'm not going to say he's a lot more than that. Do I think he's overpaid? Hell yes, I do. But it's the price of doing business right now. So that's where you're at offensively, I think, and that's what you have to move forward with as you start to think about the draft and where you're going to go.
All right, Coach, we're going to take our final timeout. We'll have our final segment coming up. I want to ask you one other running back question, and we'll kind of wrap this one up for today. The Cowboys fall in Philadelphia 41-7, the final. This is the Cowboys postcast. And this is going to be a quick timeout. We just want to, again, say thank you for watching Locked On Sports Dallas, your destination after every single game. You can also find us on the Locked On Cowboys podcast feed. And again, check out the great coverage during the week. Again, this is the Cowboys postcast, separate. And again, not only your team every day, but your team every game. All right, Coach. One other note. We don't have to spend too much time here. I just wanted to get your thoughts. Saquon Barkley goes over 2,000. We'll try to catch maybe Eric Dickerson next Sunday. 31 carries, 167 yards. As you pointed out, most of the damage done today in the second half. Where do you put Barkley? You've seen a lot of good backs over the years. Where does he stand?
He's a heck of a running back, and why the Giants would have gotten rid of him, I have no idea. What they were thinking, I have no idea. But they put him on a really good football team in the division with them. But
yeah,
in my mind, you rush for 2,000 yards, and you're one of only 9 guys to ever done that in the National Football League. It speaks volumes. And do I think that the Eagles have a hell of an offensive line? Absolutely. Do I think they may have the best offensive line coach in the business, and Jeff Stoutland? Yes, they do. So, that doesn't take anything away from the fact that the Eagles knew what they were doing. They went out and traded for Saquon Barkley, and they got him, and he's a hell of a back.
All right. So your final thoughts for today. That was the storyline, because we knew it was going to be Cooper and Kenny Pickett. And so I really wanted to see how this Cowboys defense, which has played so well, how they did against Barkley. And to their credit, as you pointed out, they did an excellent job in the first half. But once the game kind of got away, it was just, he started getting 8-9 yards per carry, and that was it.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately when your offense can't sustain drives and can't score points, they get more chances. They get to leaning on you, banging on you. That's what happens. And yeah, he broke a few good runs, and I'm sure Dickerson didn't want him to break those runs. And
No.
It'll be interesting to see because there is nothing to play for the Eagles next week. It'll be interesting to see if they play him to get that 100 yards to try to break that record. So we'll have to see. But as far as the Cowboys, second half that did get away from them as far as how they were playing defensively, because I thought in the first half they did a really, really good job of corralling him and putting pressure on Pickett, and it just got away from them. It's that simple. You cannot turn the football over and win in the NFL. It won't happen for you. So that's where it is. And hey, he got it. He got his yards today, and he got his yards because he's a heck of a back.
All right. And so final thoughts for the Cowboys as they head into this final week coming up. I'm pretty certain, Coach, I think the Commanders will have something to play for next Sunday. I don't know for sure. Maybe not, depending on what goes down. Maybe even just seeding. I'm not sure. But either way, right, if you're on the staff and you're with the Cowboys, I mean, the mindset is, okay, final game at home. Let's wrap it up. Let's have a good week. This is it. Good week of practice. Let's practice hard and let's finish strong and give our fans, give everybody, including ourselves, something to feel good about going into the offseason.
It's a lot better to get on here and talk about a win.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I get it. And I'm sure that is the message they'll be preaching, with the game coming into AT&T. And we know it's a rivalry. Today's game was a rivalry. You saw them, getting after it a little bit. It'll be that way. It'll be that way next week. So we'll see if Mike McCarthy can get his guys, and Mike Zimmer can get his guys jacked up to play a game that is against a divisional rivalry and at home. We'll see how that goes.
All right, Coach. Well, hey, this will be the last time you and I talk this year, but we'll be together. A little shameless plug and cross promotion here. You and I will start off the new year together on the Longhorns postcast after the Peach Bowl on New Year's Day. So for those of you that are interested, please, we invite you to join us for that. But for diehard Cowboys fans, our next Cowboys postcast will be next. I'm assuming it's going to be Sunday, unless they move that game to Saturday. I don't think they will. So we'll be with you next Sunday. But Coach, it's been great working with you this year so far. I'm looking forward to next year, and enjoy the week.
Hey man, have a great day, and let's look forward to a new year. It's time to turn the calendar, and let's move on, brother.
All right, that is the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. My name is Jeff Biggs. Again, the final score today: the Eagles overpower the Cowboys 41-7. This has been the Cowboys postcast.